Hi everybody, welcome back to another Paper Pioneer Live here on my channel, the Old Emo Dave channel. We cover Magic the Gathering, but more specifically, Paper Magic the Gathering from our local LGS. I am here today with one of today's competitors, Scott, going through Is It Ensoul versus Mono Blue Spirits. Scott, you are in today's matchup. Over to you.
So, playing against Jack here, I'm actually playing Jack's deck. He very kindly lent me Mono Blue Spirits. It's a deck he played for a long time. He got very well acquainted with it before moving on to something a little bit more on meta, shall we say, with Is It Ensoul. So, Is It Ensoul blue-red artifacts designed purely to play artifacts, put an Ensoul artifact on them, make them a 5/5, or throw them with a Shrapnel Blast that is surrounded by various blue-red spells that either make artifacts or benefit artifacts in some way, or help get the damage through. Mono Blue Spirits, if anyone remembers Autumn Bachette's triumph at the Mythic Championship 1, it's basically a Mono Blue tempo deck. It just so happens to be playing Spirit synergies within that, where it's using cards like Supreme Phantom to buff them all up, and it's just playing a really effective tempo game.
And you do, and hence, really, your mulligan here, you do have to have the gas from the get-go. I think with both of these decks, really, you need to be able to get on board and control it. And Jack needs to be able to get on board and destroy it. And yeah, not looking to spend very long at the table at all if you are playing these decks. And yeah, Jack has got much a successful record with Is It Ensoul, and is a really good pirate of this. So it'll be good to see how he plays against his old mirror, I guess.
Yeah, so the dream with the Mono Blue Spirits deck is ideally a Mausoleum Wanderer as a 1-drop. You follow that up with a Curious Obsession and then have a Geistlight Snare as a 1-mana counter spell. That's the dream, is 2 lands, Geistlight Snare, Curious Obsession, Mausoleum Wanderer, and you try and just snowball the game from there. It's in playing Mono Blue Spirits a couple of times, it's quite hard to lose when you have that opening, but also sometimes you end the game with 14 lands in hand and realise...
This is the point where we could tell the anecdotal story of you and me recently, where with that exact same opening, I tried to cast Kiora, the 3-mana Kiora Planeswalker 3 times in a row, and I just got denied.
Kiora was not resolving.
Kiora was not resolving. When you get that gas from the turn 1, turn 2 play, you are taking control. But here's a great start. This is this kind of start you want to see. Voldaren Epicure, how we will miss you in Standard when you rotate in a couple of weeks. This then gives you the artifact fodder, gives the initial aggro, absolutely spot on. You start with the 1 blue, you've not played anything, but that tends to mean in this deck, you get a flash in a Spectral Sailor.
Yeah, it can mean that. It's also, I'm Mulligan to 5 and had to keep a wonky hand.
Then it was that too. Jack coming straight in with an Inti. Nice little bit of tempo. He's going to discard. He's going to get the 2. He's effectively burning that card to exile, but that's okay because it's got him with extra power. You did miss and have gone to 2 lands and still look like you might. No, you didn't miss. You got Supreme Phantom.
Yeah, so the reason for playing the Supreme Phantom there is it's an X3, so if Jack wants to kill it, he needs to torch the tower with Bargain or Shrapnel Blast it. Neither of those look particularly good. Or if he was to swing with both creatures, I can at least block one of them, stunt the aggression a little bit.
That's a very well timed land drop off the top, because you can now play that from exile.
So I can see Jack has a Darksteel Citadel in hand at this point, but being able to cycle with the blood or lead into a Case of the Filch Falcon and then use the additional mana to crack the clue, it's something the deck very often doesn't want to do. You don't want to use up the artifacts just to draw a card, but it's something that you can do if you have to.
Wow. And I think the old adage goes, a lot of game pieces wins games. And I see a lot of game pieces on Jack's side of the board.
Yeah, it's how many pieces of cardboard each card makes, right? So that's why Fable of the Mirror Breaker is a good card.
Here comes combat research. This is like curious obsession at home, basically, which in some fringe cases also gives you a ward on a creature. Probably not really what we're looking for here, but the one little weakness that Spirits have, they don't like getting snowballed on top of. They can be the defender, they can be the little tinkerer, but if you're snowballing 4/4s and 4/4s and 5/5s with trample and removal spells, they find it hard to catch up.
Yeah, it's sort of the situation with a lot of tempo.
I know, and yeah, to cut you off, but Torch the Tower basically sends you to game 2.
Yeah, it's the situation with a lot of tempo decks where if you do fall behind, it's really, really hard to get back on at the same playing at the same pace as your opponent, especially one that is like his Ensoul. It's an incredibly efficient deck. It's a lot of cheap spells. They're not going to be getting stuck with 4 and 5 drops in their hand. They play a lot of 1s, a lot of 2s, and they have those mana sinks in the things like the clues, the things like the Legion Extruders, where if they have excess mana, they can generally utilize it to a pretty efficient advantage, but they're not going to be getting stuck with 5 drops in hand.
So Scott, give us a bit more thought about what you when you saw this sideboard. This was the first time you saw the sideboard, or when you, if you had any pointers to like what you were going to probably be bringing in any kind of matchup here with this deck.
So in this particular matchup, Blue Sun's Twilight is a spicy little one-of that Jack left me in the sideboard. Looked at that, I had to think about it, and thought, yeah, I'll bring that in, because if Jack Ensouls a Darksteel Citadel and I gain control of said Darksteel Citadel, I'm not sure he can win the game anymore. There's also there's a couple of Fading Hopes, a couple of different pieces of a bit more interaction, as opposed to just playing efficient creatures, where I kind of want to have one creature, ride that to victory with Curious Obsession on it and stay ahead that way, as opposed to trying to match the pace of Ensoul by playing a lot of creatures to match them, because at any point Jack can pay 2 mana and turn something into an indestructible 5/5. Very, very difficult to beat.
Yeah, I do like that line, especially the Faded Hopes. Like, you not only you really are removing the threat. Jack highlighting like how that would have been a great hand if there was any mana. Yeah, intricacies here. Like, this is the classic. They do always throw the like when you're the beatdown or when you're not. Like that is always the thoughts, and you do on the play, on the draw in these kind of matchups. You do have to go well. It's a bit like tennis and holding serve, isn't it? Like how well can you defend the service of the aggro deck coming at you, and can you do enough to power on through and win against all of that aggression? We get off to the races both, and although as usual of all of our games they do go to 125 speed, but you're both reasonably placed competitors. Jack started off with the Darksteel Citadel, interestingly, because probably means there is no 1-drop play.
Yeah, so as you said, both me and Jack, we've played Magic against each other a lot, and we actually had to keep saying to each other to slow down because we're playing on camera. So even then, this is slower than we normally play against each other. And Shacklegeist is really good in this matchup. So a lot of the time, if you have the Inti Epicure draw, there can be a lot of different threats. But in this case, there's an Ensouled land. On Jack's upkeep, I can be tapping down not just the creature being a 5/5 threat, but I'm also taking Jack off of a mana using the Shacklegeist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is what we've done here. This is like the classic go wide spirits drop up board. Like the Wanderer's dangerous, the Shacklegeist is dangerous, and unless you're like, sweepers don't tend to even be a thing in Pioneer, and other than things like Brotherhood's End, but even at this point, like, both of these creatures are getting out of range. So this really does that whole turn the corner point of Jack has had to reestablish. He's run out of a bit of gas on his side. You've tapped down his mana. Coming back into this game is going to be a real difficulty and a real threat. Mystical Disputing, and then Mystical Disputing. So yeah, that was again another example of 2-for-1 in.
Yeah, so I went for the rattle chains in the upkeep to have the hexproof on Jack's turn, and I knew I had the Mystical Dispute, and Jack only had 1 blue mana available there, so if there was a counterspell fired off at the rattle chains, I could force it to resolve and then continue taxing Jack's mana. It's while getting in with those creatures that were being buffed up by the Supreme Phantom. It's what Spirits wants to do in the matchup. It's you want to be able to stop them doing very much while continuing to chip in, get some damage through, see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you just got to winning those races and holding in those the classic set of this matchup playing out. And both these decks really still playable in any given Pioneer, any given Pioneer FNM, any given Pioneer larger person field event. Like, if anything, you're going to come against your bad matchups. Of both of the two, I would still probably wouldn't be bringing Spirits out of my bag at this moment in time, but I definitely would, in the right situations, be bringing in Ensoul to try and spike 32 person RCQ or something like that.
Well, as you said, it's the kind of thing where if you know what you're doing, if your matchups line up well and you happen to draw a lot of Mausoleum Wanderers and Curious Obsessions, then you can win a lot of games. Like our last Pioneer Weekly, I drew a lot of Curious Obsessions and a lot of Mausoleum Wanderers, and I went 4-0. It's the kind of deck where sometimes nothing will line up correctly, sometimes it all lines up correctly, and with a mono blue tempo deck where you're counterspell based and very heavily tempo based, you can sometimes just have draws that mean your opponents can't do anything no matter what they do.
Yeah, a lot of good tempo in Jack's hand. It's actually quite a difficult discard that he's currently thinking about, because he's got a lot of good cards. I can see a Mystical Dispute, I can see an Inti, I can see a Shrapnel Blast, I can see a Torch the Tower. So, like, yeah, Shrapnel Blast, yeah, I guess. The Smuggler's Copter is going to help you churn through your deck. You're going to find another one of those.
Yeah, so Jack discarding the Shrapnel Blast there it filled me with dread. So I understand Shrapnel Blast isn't looking incredible against a full hand of Spirits. But
yeah, this was smart as well, because you not so much telegraphing, but you were likely to bring something in.
Yeah,
and
he's kept the cheaper removal spell. I think this was actually a huge mistake to attempt the Rattle Chains there. I had Counterspell in hand, which would have allowed me to stunt the aggression, stop the Torch the Tower. I had no reason to play the Rattle Chains. So I had the Geistlight Snare and Curious Obsession in hand. So as soon as the Shrapnel Blast is discarded, I can probably assume there's one removal spell left. It's unlikely that he'd keep 2 or even 3 removal spells. I'm playing myself into a corner by tapping out for the Rattle Chains, and it allows the Torch the Tower to go onto the Mausoleum Wanderer. And as you might see here, I don't have another creature to play, so I think it was actually a really bad mistake to expose not just the Rattle Chains to a counter spell, but also to expose the Mausoleum Wanderer to a removal spell. And is it Ensoul things? He's played a creature every turn. He's playing efficient threats. The Smuggler's Copter is still kicking my head in. Now with Inti, there's a huge amount of selection and card advantage coming here. And yeah, me beckoning the attack on because
bring the damage, please, Daddy. That's
yeah. Functionally, yes. And I realised that I've made a very bad mistake, and it could cost me the game. It's as simple as that. I've missed the land drop because I'm not drawing the extra cards with Curious Obsession. I've lost both the creatures, and now I'm looking at my hand with 3 mana counter spells that I can't cast because I don't have spirits or enchantments, and I can't use these Curious Obsessions. It's not looking good here. And as me snapping The,
and he did it on your side, and then you actually got the opportunity to spell pierce it. Oh wow. Okay, it was the classic. Respect, looking to see if the answer was there. Both decks did their thing. Is it Ensoul did as well? But as you mentioned, 4OD the week after. Classic. We weren't recording, so therefore you're not getting any highlights. But you did beat my ass. You did beat my ass, so we will let you have that one.
We had to record the 1 week where Jack actually beats me.
There we go, Jack. Here is your line in the sand. Can we see more wins from Jack on camera? Maybe we can, maybe we can't. If you haven't made it this far and you haven't already visited Bulk Box UK, where you can get 10% off the best bulk boxes in town with the colder old Emo 10, go there, pick some up. We'll see you on the next video, but you should surely be liking and subscribing by this point. Getting us over that 500 mark will be awesome. Last thoughts, Scott?
I have no thoughts. The same things that were going through my head when I tapped out for that rattle chains.
Be careful what you wish for. Rattle chains isn't always the answer. That's what we got for today. We'll see you on the next one. There'll probably be some standard. Hopefully whoever caught some on too. Bye for now.